Hello there.
If you could see what goes on behind the scenes before we go live, you'd all be switching off right now.
Yes.
Actually, why would you? We're not tech. We're not here to talk about tech. We're here to talk about guitars.
It's a good job.
So, yeah.
Well, especially when we're resorting to writing down on sheets of paper.
Yeah. Where's my? I was holding up a message to Dave, but then realised it was mirrored.
Yeah.
But luckily, I worked out to unmirror my screen. But I need it. I don't know about you. I need it mirrored when I'm talking, because I find if I put my hand up, I talk with my hands. Put my hand up, and the hand goes up on the other side.
Oh, it's weird. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Anyway, so right, let's talk about guitars.
Right.
Hi, Neil, Barry, and Alan that are in the chat. Later on today, I want to talk about this thing that I've been building. I tried to finish wiring up for today, but didn't quite manage. And also, my wiring skills are like, I mean, I can wire things, but it never looks as good as I think it will. I think it's just that extra step that I've seen other people do that I don't feel I really need to do, because I'm not. This is for me. I don't think I need to spend another like 50% more time wiring everything to make it look really good.
What kind of enclosure is that?
It's a 3D printed enclosure.
Okay.
Oh, very good.
I did it on Tinkercad. But yeah, what I am using, just to preview ahead, is silicon wire based on Mark's suggestion many years ago.
Silicon wire. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it literally the outside doesn't burn.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, and then we also wouldn't mind talking about two things today, if that's all right. One of them is, and I've done this before. I've just watched a Henning Pauli video, and I want to talk about it. And that happened a few weeks ago with Trembridge. This one's all about AI music writing. Oh my god, it's brilliant! It's a brilliant must-watch video. But before we do that, Dave, you were telling me in chat that you've recently changed some strings on a guitar, and you've made a discovery from it.
Yeah, it's probably not a major discovery. Let me show you. Look. I've got my Guild acoustic guitar, which I've had for a few years now, and I say probably about 10 years, and it cost about £350 when I bought it. So it was a reasonable guitar, but I've had trouble getting it intonated, and it's been really frustrating. And the other day I thought, well, I've always gone for light strings, you see. I've always gone for light strings on electric and acoustics and all sorts, because I don't want to bust my fingers, basically. But I decided, my friend George came round with his Strat and said, Dave, I've put a set of 12s on my Strat and it sounds absolutely fantastic. So I thought, okay, let's get some proper strings on this. So I got some 12s to put on this guitar. And hey presto, it's intonated absolutely perfect. And I just never appreciated the difference, the thickness of strings, the gauge made on intonation.
So before we talk any further, can you hold the guitar up again so we can see your bridge? So when you're saying you're having problems intonating before, was there anything you could ever do to that bridge to change anything, or is it just...
No, there wasn't. Unfortunately, there wasn't. And I think I had a go a while back to try and see if, I mean, you can only do sort of micro things with it, can't you? I mean, on a bridge like that, you can't really do anything with it. I don't know if you can see that. So it was more of a frustration. I used to keep looking at this thing, saying, do I take the bridge off? And I mean, what a mess that would be. But no, it just needed thicker strings. And that did it, absolutely lovely now, all the way through. And it was quite a way off, especially on the G string. It was really off on that, and if I played anything up the neck, it just sounded awful. But so it was just something that I hadn't appreciated before, that it makes such a difference when you actually put different gauge strings on. I've actually put 12s on my Strat now, and I'll be honest, it does sound much better. I've got some pickups, and I can't tone rider pickups, and they've always been a bit sharp for me. But with the thicker strings, you get a much richer tone with it. So, yeah, it's good. But I mean, I don't know whether you've had that experience.
Look, I'm going to answer that in 1 second. Just Barry's just quickly said he's looked up why necks are wider on acoustics, because we were discussing it last week, and we were just speculating that it has got something to do with the way you play. And he reckons that he's discovered that it is to do with finger picking.
Yes,
I mean, it would make sense, I guess.
it would. Yeah,
Neil said he had a bad G string and it was causing intonation problems, and changing down from 12 to 11s made it fine. Neil,
right.
was that on an acoustic as well then? Because
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain we have had someone on here before who builds acoustics that's talked about this. Either that, or I've read about it or seen it somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think most acoustics, when they come out, are set up to have a certain gauge on them.
Yeah.
Or the builders were saying they check with their clients about which gauge it is. Because when you have a bridge like that you can't shift, there's nothing you can do once the strings are on, really.
Well, now I would say now I know it has that impact. Then I'll be much more careful, because you're absolutely right. If you know it has an impact like that, you're going to put the bridge for a certain gauge of strings.
And just in case people don't know what we're talking about, which hopefully they will. Neil said his was an acoustic as well.
Yeah.
He's also put lag in the chat, which hopefully is nothing to do with our streaming, but maybe it is.
Right.
Just I'm sure people know, but just in case you don't know, intonation is basically, when we're talking about intonation, we're talking about making sure when you play your guitar and you fret a string, as you move up the fretboard, every fret is still in tune.
Yeah.
And if your guitar's badly intonated, it will go out of tune as you go higher up the neck. Yeah. And that is because basically the string length is incorrect. Oh, lag is the brand, not us talking.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't got a bridge here, but on an electric guitar, you can move the saddles backwards and forwards,
Yes.
and that makes the string slightly longer or slightly shorter. That's why saddles, when you see an electric guitar, often the bass saddle is a bit further away, and the top saddle is a bit closer towards the nut of the neck. When I first got my first electric guitar, I repositioned them so they're all straight, because I was a bit annoyed they weren't. they were a bit wonky. I had no idea about intonation.
You didn't know that.
Okay. But
and just to add to
what affects that is the thickness of the string.
Yeah.
The gauge of the string does affect the intonation. So you do need to, when you change your strings on electric guitars, move the saddles to accommodate.
Yeah. And of course, on a nylon acoustic, it's different again, because the top three strings, which are nylon usually, the G string is probably nearly as thick as the bass E string. So it's got a different, you have to intonate that differently.
Yeah.
On a steel string acoustic like this one here, you'll notice that that saddle goes at an angle, but on a nylon acoustic, it has to be straight. It has to be at 90 degrees to the strings, which somebody pointed out to me when I was making mine just in time. So again, it's a different thing.
So I've either seen just a luthier working on the saddles, or I've seen some companies, because your saddle there is a wooden thing with an insert in it. And I've seen people sell compensated inserts, or maybe it was just a luthier building one. So you can pull it out and change it depending on when you're changing your
strings. Strings. I mean, but it's micro adjustments. I mean, it is obviously compensated for a set of strings, and I guess now that it's a heavier set of strings than I was putting in. So, yeah, it's something. I learned. So,
it does seem odd that you can't. I mean, I'm not an acoustic player, but it does seem odd that if you're changing strings around, that you can't just replace that bone bit of the nut.
Well, I mean, even if you could, it's not thick enough. That Ken Parker, gentleman who died recently. Watched one of his videos, and his saddles were quite thick, and I think that was because he got greater control over the intonation
Right.
that you would have on a thin saddle like I've got in this Guild guitar here. I'll be honest with you, I've always had trouble with intonation, so whenever I build guitars now, I always make sure that I can move the bridge, whether it's acoustic or
Yeah,
whatever,
right.
because then you're sort of covered.
But Barry's just asked as well if different gauge strings affect the relief under tension, which they do. But also, as someone else has said, who was it? Yeah, Neil mentioned you can adjust the truss rod, and that's one thing you can do if doesn't make it's not as good as moving the saddles, but you can adjust your truss rod for intonation. But then obviously it has a knock-on effect to intonation, so to action.
To action, yeah.
But everything has a knock-on effects to each other. Well,
Yeah.
Another alternative is, because if you're saying it's too thin at the bridge, if you have this problem again and you want thinner strings, you can change the nut and you can get a compensated nuts. So
Right.
a compensated nut, it basically adds a bit of extra space, so the first fret becomes wider in certain places.
That's interesting. Yeah. But does that, if it's the nut end and you fretting a string, is that gonna? I suppose it is, because it's the length of the string that you're changing.
And that answers my question, which I keep going around in my head all the time that I can't work out.
Yes.
You change the length of the string,
to
get the intonation right, but surely then all the frets need to change very slightly to fit that new string.
Yes, because if you're doing it at the nuts, I would have thought so. Yeah.
But yeah, as Neil's saying, in reality, guitars are imperfect.
Yes.
That's why you get those true temperament frets that
Absolutely.
do that weird thing to try and get it. And that they may try and get it to everything is perfect, but it doesn't sound right to your ear. For sometimes
and it doesn't sound right to your bass player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Has anyone ever seen a true temperament bass?
Well, no, they don't make them, and so you have that issue where your guitar is in tune, but your bass player can't match that.
Yeah. Poor bass players.
Yeah.
Turn them down. I shouldn't say that. It's a bass player. Yeah. But you're happy now with your...
I am, yeah. No, I was just, it was a lesson learned. That was interesting for me.
And how are you finding having thicker gauge strings?
Well, I'm not too bad, to be honest with you. I mean, it's slightly harder to bend with a thicker string, but I don't do an awful lot of bending, to be honest with you. With that, I mean, if you're bending up the neck anyway, it's not too much of a problem. But I think it's good. I think I will go for thicker strings in future. Yeah. So what sort of gauge would you use, Mark, in yours?
I'm thinking around 12s, just like you.
Oh, yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, I like they're a little bit more percussive. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't play enough to know what I prefer, but on my bass, when I play bass a lot, I always preferred lighter strings, so thinner gauge on the bass. But I had a few basses with different setups, but I always went lighter. And recently on the guitars I've been setting up here, I've gone with 9s on everything, just because it felt like that was a trend that seemed to be happening with the YouTubers that I watch, YouTube guitarists.
Yes, 9s. All my guitars have got 9s on, I think, except these new ones. Yeah. So
prior to that, it was always 10s. Yeah. I very occasionally get asked for other things, but that only tends to be when people are really tuning down a lot.
Right. Just going back to that last week, we were talking about that acoustic guitar. We're trying to work out what that guitar was that chap played in the gig that I saw, and it was the Ibanez, the Tim Henson, or it was a cheaper version of the Tim Henson signature, and basically he'd seen Tim Henson play it and was sort of blown away with it. But I tell you, it did sound really good in a live environment. If you listen to Tim Henson demonstrate it, it does have that, I'll call it a piazzo fizz. It's got that I don't know what it is, but you can tell that it's not just an acoustic sound. But when it was played live, I suppose the EQ or whatever that it was played through actually did sound really good. So yeah, that was another interesting thing.
Maybe you need to find out what amp he was using as well.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, he was certainly quite chatty. So there you are. I will.
Oh, is he someone you can get in contact with?
Yeah, well, I did. I have.
Oh, you
I
did?
said
Oh,
if
you
he would
right.
ever fancy coming on the show, then
Oh,
yeah,
you
just
know,
let me know. So I'm on Instagram with him, so I can always send him a message and say, look, if you fancy coming on, talking about Pink Floyd and nylon guitars. Yeah. Anyway, Daniel, so what's that gizmo you've made then?
Oh, so last week we were talking about the issue I had, which the following day I then went to work on, which is I'd loaded up a guitar, wired it up as I normally do, but it had pickups I hadn't used before, and I was a little bit disappointed with the way the tone controls were responding to the pickups. So not necessarily the pickup sound, with the tone like fully open, it was fine, but I didn't like the response of it. And I spent a while trying to work out after our chat the following day, what the problem was. So what I did was I tried a few different capacitors in the tone until I got the capacitor I liked. And all I did really was I bypassed the tone, came over to, where is it? It's over here somewhere, I think. Hold on, I'm going to strap down. I've got this. Let me make myself a bit bigger for a moment. This is a breadboard. Nope, hold on, I'm nearly there.
You're quite
there we go.
There
A breadboard.
Yeah.
And I got just a normal instrument cable, chopped it in half, and then on both halves of the instrument cable, I took the hot and kept that separate. And on both halves, I took the negative, so the ground and the shielding, and combined the ground and the shielding into one thing. And then I just put them in the breadboard. So I put them in the breadboard so they were just basically, the grounds were touching, and the hots, I put different capacitors between. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I was just trying out different capacitors on there. So I did that until I got the capacitor I wanted. And we'll come to it in a minute, that's what this bit at the bottom is. It just changes the capacitor values. But I haven't wired in the capacitors yet. I've got a 12-way rotary there.
Oh,
ready
right, yeah.
But then I got the capacitor sound I wanted, but I didn't quite get the roll off on the pots. The pot that I was using wasn't quite right. So what I did is I had 4 different pots. I had a 250K and a 500K audio pot, and a 250K and a 500K linear pot, audio logarithmic or whatever, and linear. So I had 4 of those. So I just rotated around the 4 until I got the one that I thought had the best roll off. But it was quite awkward because I had to keep soldering and desoldering on that. So what this is I can either take the output of my, it's going to say tone tester there. That's it.
Yeah.
The output of the guitar can go straight into here, and then the that will output to the amp, right? So it just goes through to the amp. Or these little lugs here, if I could just use a crocodile clip and attach them to the volume control of my inner circuit, which is what I would normally do. That's what I'd normally do. But for this setup where I've already got something and I want to make a change, it will go into here, right? And then the output just goes through, and then I'm just taking the hot wire from here down to this capacitor, and it's changing. So if you imagine on one way of wiring up your tone control on your pickups on your circuit is that one of the lugs of the volume control goes to the output, right? Maybe it goes to a switch, select switch, but then it goes to the output. And then you have also one way of doing this, which is a more traditional way. You can take a jumper from your volume to your tone control, and you have the capacitor on the tone control, which goes from one lug to the ground, the shielding. But the traditional way of doing it is, instead of having a jumper between the 2 pots, is you have the capacitor going between the two pots, right?
Right.
Capacitor is the jumper, and
Yeah.
then it's just grounded. So what happens here is this is my input. This is my input. It's just going straight down to the capacitors. So I've flipped through the capacitors, and then it goes up to this. I haven't wired it up yet because I'm put the capacitor on. It goes up to this switch, and this switch goes. You pick it goes that way or it goes that way. If it goes that way, it's going to linear pots. If it goes that way, it's going to logarithmic pots.
Logarithmic,
Does that make sense?
right. Yeah.
And then when it goes that way or that way, you go up to 250 or you go down to 500. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Go left or right. Left or right is logarithmic or linear. Up or
Linear,
down
yeah.
250. And but before it gets there, it goes through the capacitors.
Right.
So yeah, as Neil said, that's the 50s wiring is what lots of people call that kind of traditional way of using the capacitor before it gets to the pots.
Okay.
So it comes into the capacitor before the pots. But I just didn't have a chance to wire up the capacitors. But I've got a range of capacitors that I normally use, and some that I haven't used yet. So I'm going to fiddle around before I get the 12 that I think are the best variety to be testing. And this will be used for my bass as well, because at the moment I've had from 3 different companies. I've got the equivalent of the Veritone switch that some Gibsons use. So it's basically a capacitor, a rotary switch that goes through 5 different capacitors, and that changes the tone. And on the Gibson, that is independent of the tone control. It's just an independent thing that changes the capacitors. So that my 3 different companies, the versions I've got, you can just wire it between the output and the amp, basically. So you rotate it round. Neil just said, I'm the only guy that uses the tone control. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I've got this Veritone from 3 different companies, and they've all got very slightly different capacitors in, but they're more or less the same. They work beautifully on guitars, but I've been trying to put them in basses, and they just do not work on basses because the capacitors are wrong. And what I want to do is find the right capacitors that will work on a bass, so I can get 5 different stages of tones that I can put into my bass to work. So that's one of the things I'm going to be doing with this, trying to work that out. Yeah.
So effectively, the only thing that's changing in your thing is the output impedance of the pickup and the effect of that on that setup, isn't it? Because otherwise,
I mean, I'm not a pickup expert, but we do know, as Mark has shown in some of his videos, it's not just the output impedance. It is the magnets you use and things like that can make a change to the tone. But the magnets don't change the impedance, do they? They just have some effect.
Because basically it's an RC, it's a frequency circuit that the tone is, isn't it? And so in theory, if the signal is coming in on the same impedance, then once you've picked a combination, then that should work for everything. But obviously it doesn't.
No,
that's what I'm getting, because the different pickups are giving you a different resistance. Then I don't understand it enough, but
but maybe Mark, you made a video where you did this really simple upgrade on some pickups where you changed the magnets. That's all you did, and it definitely changed the tone. Definitely did.
And I mean, the strength of the magnets also is a big issue. I mean, a pickup is like the sum of its parts, right? It's everything. So if you change one tiny thing, it changes. And the strength of the magnet is one of those things. Yeah.
But is the strength of the magnet just changing the kind of the output, the resistance value you get on the pickup?
And that could be perceived as a tonal change. Yeah.
Yeah. But the magnets do make a difference. The type of magnet does make a difference. I'm sure it does.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just started playing Alnico 2s. I really haven't ever, and they're completely different beasts. Like Alnico 2s are just different magnets altogether, and they sound like I have to dial in a whole new setting just for those pickups. Yeah.
so something was very different about these pickups to the ones that I've been using recently. But then, as I mentioned before, I don't build consistently the same thing. I'm not always putting the same pickups in. I'm not always having the same sort of circuit where it's a 3-way or a 5-way, or with independent tones or whatever. Sometimes it's a master tone, sometimes independent tones, sometimes things are coiled split. So everything's always different. So having this would be quite useful for me as a way of quickly testing it.
That's gonna be
Without
awesome,
having to
Daniel.
keep wiring and unwiring. It didn't take me that long to wire up just now. I just spent an hour on it. But part of that hour was working out that it maybe isn't the best idea to put it all into a 3D printed unit and then try and heat the pots up with a soldering iron.
Oh, right.
Things are slightly wobbly. I had to let it cool and then retighten it. But it's useful to hold everything in place.
Yeah,
The right
It's a
position.
really good idea. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of making. I've got these that I've made, which are I just took that. This is a bit of a strap pick guard, and I put the pots in it like this. And they're all in the right position, and then I just solder them in place. Yeah, so I was thinking I might 3D print these, but I'm not going to bother now because if I 3D print them and heat it up too much, it's going to melt and sort of shift. Shame. I like these things.
Excellent.
The instrument that you're working on, Daniel, that prompted this whole thing, it's a bass, right? Or is it a guitar?
It's a guitar.
Okay,
No, it's
okay.
not been prompting it. I've been wanting to build it for ages. I bought all the bits to build it ages ago. Well, I had all the bits, but I just never did it because I just thought, I can't be bothered. Each time I'll just spend an extra hour going backwards and forwards to get everything right. But then this is only taking a couple of hours of work, and it would save me time.
Well, one of the things I'd recommend, you can try it if you want to. A couple of months ago, I made my own capacitor for and it turned out to be a very, very small value, like smaller than what guitarists normally use, right? It was a tiny value. But when I put it in the guitar, it had a range of very usable tones. Like you could go from the bottom to the back and everything was usable. Like, and it almost felt like having different pickups. It was really a unique experience. So if you wanted to experiment with tiny values, they work really well too.
So one other issue, so I've got some tiny ones. I'm going to try them all out. One other issue is I just used some pots that I had left over from things, and none of them are the brand that I currently use most of the time. So that's bound to have an effect as well. But I don't know how much.
That's only surely that is only the tolerance of the resistance that you get out of it. I mean, there's no magic fairy dust other than its resistance.
Well, last week, Mark talking about this with me and Toby? I think it was Mark on the podcast last week was saying that Joe Bonamassa's talking about his very expensive 50s Strat and how the tones pots respond very differently to a modern pot.
Yeah. That, according to him, I've never played a 59 Telecaster. I mean, Les Paul. But I can imagine, yeah.
But I mean, because obviously the frequency cutoff is based on the resistance and the capacitance value. So I'm not sure what other factors could flavour that. I mean, I know we like to think of it, but I don't think there is anything. But I may be completely wrong.
Well, look, maybe there is something about the materials that are used that adds something to it as well. Maybe it's all tone wood discussion, but who knows?
tone pot.
I don't think it's going to make as significant a difference as changing the capacitors do, because you can really notice the difference when you change the capacitors. So it's a difference, and I believe that the way the pots work is the capacitors don't really have an effect straight away. What you're hearing when you're first turning is mainly the natural response of the pot, and then the capacitors come in at a later point. But I don't know how true that is. I'll be able to test that very significantly with this very easily.
Oh, it's 100% true. I mean,
Yeah.
the pots are doing something, because the first time I ever wired a pickup straight to the jack, no volume, no pots, nothing, just pick up straight to the jack. It was a very unique experience. Like, it sounded different, and it sounded good in a very, very good way.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically what you're doing, you're allowing the capacitor is a resistance for frequency, right? So the higher the capacitance, the higher the frequency is going to allow to leak down into the ground. So if you've got a very low capacitance, then you're going to leak a lot more of the audio signal right down into the ground when you open up the resistor, which is then going to let it go. That sort of opens up the floodgate and lets the signal go down. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just finding that balance, isn't it? But I think the resistance that the pickup is giving you is also playing a part in that as well. So that's why it's going to be different for different pickups. I'll be really interested when you get your combination, Dan, just to let us know what it is.
Well, basically, what all I've really done with that one is changed the capacitor. So I've got two capacitors that I normally use, one for humbuckers and one for single coils. And the one for the humbuckers just wasn't quite strong enough. I went for a bigger one for that I normally have on the single coils, and it worked. And I changed it to be. Hold on, I've got them here. Oh yeah, I changed it to be an audio taper instead of a linear taper on the tone, and it worked better.
It worked better then, did it?
Yeah.
That was interesting. I wondered if
with
that is if you'd get no change and then you just suddenly get a change. But
who knows?
Yeah,
it worked better for that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Another note, since we're still on the subject sort of pots, one of the things I discovered a couple of years ago, I was buying up almost every magnetic reel-to-reel machine I could buy, and old tube-based phonographs. So all these like tube-based reel-to-reels and phonographs from like the 50s and like the early 60s. And anytime I saw them anywhere, I would buy them, because you can pick them up for like $7, $9. And you get the old tubes, you get the transformers, you get everything. But what's important here is that these companies that were making these phonographs and reel-to-reels in the 50s and 60s were using the exact same components as Gibson and Fender. So you can get CTS pots with the pot code on there that says 1959 or whatever in these old phonographs and reel-to-reels for like $7. Like, you find them in a junk, thrift stores, whatever. So if you ever really wanted to test like a 50s pot, you can just go find yourself one of these old phonographs or reel-to-reels, pull the pots out and put them in your guitar just to test it. And they're the same CTS pots.
I saw Joe from Hello Sailor taking apart a particular radio that he bought. Again, an old radio, and he'd spent quite a lot of money on it, but with the hope that he knew that radios were often built with certain types of whatever the components were that he was after, the resistors or the diodes or whatever he wanted for his effects pedals. And so he was doing it like live on air, an unboxing where he was taking it apart, and the excitement when he found the right diode in there.
100%. You'll find sprogs, you'll find bumblebees, you'll find everything in these old equipments, but all those caps are worthless. Like, they're completely worthless because they've all bled. They're nothing's to spec. The resistors are not to spec. So I threw all that stuff out. I kept them for like the aesthetic value because I just like looking at old capacitors. Yeah. But it's really the transformers, the tubes, and those pots. And then you get all that shielded wire from the 50s too. Just like literally, if you wanted to counterfeit 50s guitar, get yourself a 50s phonograph or a reel-to-reel, because all the electronics are in there.
There you are.
Hey, Mark, Eddie's asked what materials you use to make your capacitors. I know the videos on your YouTube channel, but what were you using?
Simple, basic aluminum foil, and I used it's like a paper for the dielectric. I use a very thin paper, and it's called something. It's like you use it for like wrapping gifts or something. It's like a very see-through thin paper, and then household like oil and then I used the 3D printed enclosure to put it together. You know, it was actually really, really simple. I made a lot of them too, because you can get yourself, you know, your household aluminum foil. You can just go on and on, just make pickups all day long. I mean, sorry, I said capacitors all day long.
Capacitors, yeah. Wow, that's never thought of that.
So just quickly to end on, I'm going to put a link in a minute when we finish in the video description. But I watched a video by Henning called Rant, This Is It. And I've seen him before talk about AI music. And in fact, he has one of his many courses is how to make AI music. So in the past, this is what the crux of his video was. In the past, the different audio interface or the different programs he uses for making AI music, which he uses a lot apparently in the background of his videos where he's demonstrating stuff, because it's just in the background, so it doesn't need to be stuff that good. You have to do a lot of work with it. You have to pull it apart into stems. You have to restructure it. He talks about the idea that often if you got AI to write a song, it would have some sort of weird structure where verses would be 7 bars instead of 8 bars, and you'd have a bridge and then another bridge and then the chorus, and the verse would appear at odd points. The structure wouldn't be right. So he said there's a lot of work to do on it. But he saw a video of, I think it's called Suno Studios.
Suno, I've heard of that.
Of their new release, and he having watched that, he had to go and try it. So he paid for the year subscription to get the full premium version of it, of which it is the beta 1 version. He kept emphasizing that this is the very basic version of it, and it might be better when it's properly released in a month's time. And it's just incredible watching what happens, where he just he asked it to write a song about the fact that AI is taking over, and you won't be needing real people to write songs anymore. So it came up with the lyrics in 30 seconds, and then he typed in something like, spoiler alert, go and watch it, it's much better than what I can describe, but he typed in something like, write it in an 80s rock style driving beat, D minor, and then a couple of other little prompts. It took under a minute to write a very good song. And then he was explaining how he was using this program on some of the songs he's recording at the moment with a band. So he had professional musicians listening along to what was coming out of it. And you'd literally say, write a string part for this. And it would write a string part of such high quality that although a musician could write it, you'd need a proper string quartet or set of, orchestra to be able to play it at that quality, because you couldn't do it with the samples and things that he has in his massive library of very expensive samples and stuff. And he was just talking about the quality of the kind of way it anticipates what might be coming in a song and working out what's needed. So the example he gave is he asked for a string part in a certain section of the song, and it realized that it was kind of like the instrumental bridge. So it took the melody from the forthcoming chorus and put that into what was happening with the string part. It's just incredible. And then, but then what's interesting, and I'm not going to ruin this because it's the end of his video, his conclusion of what he thinks music will be like in the future if AI can write like this so quickly, about not just what music will be like in the terms of asking people to, or people writing and releasing music, but how listeners will get in their car and how they'll be able to interact with an AI system to write music for them on the go when they're driving to work or whatever. His insights were really interesting.
It's quite a sad.
Yeah. It was sad. And
I'm glad I'm old, I'll be honest with you.
But Dave, this is the sort of thing I imagine you would be well into, because you're...
No, I am. Do you know what? I think creativity should be to humans. I'm working on an album. It sounds a bit pretentious, I know it does, but I built that dolphin guitar, and it inspired me to write a song. I got some people to sing it. It sounded absolutely gorgeous when they sang it. So I thought, right, I'm going to write a concept album, and I am absolutely determined that it will all be me, whether it's rubbish or not, because I just don't see the point of it. Music is something, yeah, it's something to enjoy listening to, but it's also, for me, the thing that really gets me going. You know, I can sit here and I
Yeah.
can compose that string part I want in there, or the guitar part. I mean, it may take me, I don't know, 20 takes to get a little riff or something, but that's the pleasure. And I just think the AI. I saw a thing with Rick Beato and Jordan Rudess, who was Dream Theater's keyboard player. And Jordan was really excited. I've been working with this AI guy, and he's come up with this thing. And so he sat at the piano and he said, look, I can play this bit. And he was doing his, his jazzy bit. And then he stopped playing, and this thing kicked in and was playing in his style, because it had learned from him another bit, and then he could add a bit to it, and then this thing kicked in. And I just thought, Jordan, what is the point? What is the point of that? I don't understand it.
Well, that's actually, that's bringing up another point, Dave, which is we have nothing to really fear and nothing to worry about, right? Because the AI can learn from us and learn our styles, but you can't ask it to create the next Jimi Hendrix or the next Nirvana. Like, it doesn't know what the next new thing is. It can only create what it knows and what the large models that it learns from. It can't predict, and it can't inspire. It just can't. Like, it can only know. It only knows what it knows, really. So
it can only.
We're fine.
It can only interpolate, not extrapolate. That I understand that. Yeah,
totally right. Two things Henning said is he's been listening to some AI music recently, and he prefers it to some of the stuff that he's listened to in the charts. But also, his main point was the way the program worked. So forget the AI; it still needed someone to tell it what to do, right?
Yeah.
The way the program worked, you could enter all of these things. You could listen to something that it played back to and say, "Oh, I don't like that. Could you do it differently?"
Yeah.
You could create a really good bit of music with AI without having been a musician yourself. All you have to do is be someone that can listen to what's happening and put prompts in.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a trained musician or a trained arranger to be able to do it. You just need to say, I don't like that bit, or do this bit differently, or drop this in here, and it can work.
Yeah, no, I can understand what he was saying. You know, you can sit in your car and say, hey, whatever the machine is, generate some prog rock for me, or disco music for me to listen to. In this style, a bit like, I don't know, Katy Perry or whatever, and it'll go off and produce it. Yeah.
And again, like, that's all it knows. Like, you can do a mishmash, like prog rock with jazz or whatever, and like, but it basically only knows what it knows. So it doesn't it can't ever predict like the untrodden path. It can't see the future. It doesn't see that 16-year-old kid with a guitar raging against that machine, and building the new genre. Like, it cannot build new genres. It can only mix and match them. So we have nothing to fear. And I think it's super cool. I mean, it's a tool.
It's a tool. I don't dispute that. I agree. And I just noticed in the comments there, AI is perfectly timed, and musicians are not. And it's those little imperfections that actually sometimes really do make.
I think you're being naive. I think AI won't be long before it won't be perfectly timed. It can do all those nuances. And I don't see why, when someone comes up with something new, they're normally coming up with something new, but they've listened to things before, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's rare that someone comes in as an outsider who's never listened to any music before and hasn't played an instrument and picks them up and plays something. I don't think it would be too complicated for AI to come up with something different. And the problem we have, and I don't know how to explain this properly, but a while ago I heard one of the problems of forgetting AI, of just music in general now, because there's so much out there, is the old bell curve they used to have of what was popular was like this. Everything was popular in the middle, and then you had these little outliers of weird music. But now, because it's all on the internet, that bell curve is much lower. because so many people can find so many different things
Yes.
that those outliers of weird things, more and more people listen to now. So it can just produce weird stuff and people will listen to it and like it.
Yeah.
I think.
No, it's
But yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it's
I definitely
it's sort of
believe
sad in a
that
way,
people
but
come up with new things. The big difference, again, this isn't my idea. I've heard someone else talk about this. With like when we talk about the Industrial Revolution, and then we talk about what's happening with AI, and people say, "Oh, it's just like the Industrial Revolution. We were worried about our jobs then, and we shouldn't be now." The Industrial Revolution just took processes away from people doing them. It didn't take any of the creativity away from people. It just took the physical manufacturing of things, or the made processes easier. It didn't come up with music.
yeah,
Yeah, no. So it's more worrying when you see someone like Henning, who's a professional musician. Well, as he says, he's now a YouTuber and does other things, so he
yes.
feels lucky. But as a professional musician and engineer and producer, who's worried that these not AI, but the AI programs that people can use get rid of the need for someone like him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Rick Beato he does the same sort of thing. I mean, and he's created a couple of artists, again using AI, completely created their images, created their styles, and then I think he used Suno. I mean, he was using other ones as well. But yeah, it's look, it's impressive. I mean, the tonal quality of these tracks is amazing. I understand that, yeah, and it does have some of the nuances of a player and everything like that. But yeah, I don't know. I just yeah, I'm just a stick in the mud, perhaps.
Well, yeah, maybe. I highly recommend you watch the video. I'll put the link in the description of this. I'll put it in the chat now.
I didn't go to
You
see
don't have to watch it all. Just watch until
Yeah,
it
we
plays.
will. Yeah, put a link.
Get to the end and hear his conclusion, because it's Henning's summary of what the future will be like, which I found most interesting.
Okay.
Mark said, "No, we're always meeting."
I don't think anybody knows what the future looks like, especially around AI, because just so much. I think it's a very confusing topic, and it's also there's a lot of like lies surrounding it that are perpetuated by like the actual AI companies. I think we're fine. I think nobody should be up in an uproar. I think musicians are going to be fine for forever. Everything's all good. I think everybody's going to have their jobs. We're all good. We're all good.
I think there was an interesting thing. Sorry, Rick Beato was saying something interesting thing, and that was that these models, these large language models, have learnt stuff from digital material.
Yeah,
but if you
it's
then
synthetic data, yeah,
exactly. But if you talk to a lot of people, producers, musicians, and stuff, they don't write this stuff down. You know, this stuff in a digital format.
Totally disagree with that. I think that is so wrong. They don't need to write it down, because if you can extrapolate it from listening to their things, because the AI is not going into a recording studio and setting up all the amps and using all of the systems. It's doing it in a virtual space.
But it's doing it on material that it's learned from. I mean,
I don't think it needs to know. I don't think it needs to know those things.
And because there's all these people out there now who believe they are salient, and they've got a friend in the box, and they're tapping into a fifth dimension or something.
I mean, it is full on. We still want to see live musicians. That's the thing. Unfortunately, who's going to be a live musician with the money they get paid? That's the thing.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother level of it all. Really.
Is there any hope for a guitar builder?
Who needs guitars? Yeah.
Okay, we've just talked ourselves out of the podcast now.
Yeah. My biggest regret has always been that I don't live in the future, because I think the future is so exciting. I want to see what happens. And the future next week, I might have this wired up and I'll plug it in and show you how it works.
Excellent. Yeah. No, that's the sort of stuff. It's interesting though.
I did see, just to save us from AI, I did see a news article the other day of some guys that waded across somewhere to go fishing or whatever, and they got basically the tide came in and they got stuck and almost died, but the lifeguards, the
Coast Guard.
Coast Guards managed to rescue them because someone had spotted them. And the reason they went out and thought they were safe is they asked ChatGPT what the tide levels were going to be like and if they'd be all right. So either it was trying to kill them, or it just doesn't know what it's talking about.
Yeah, sinister. No, it's really good.
Great. All right. Thanks,
thank you very much. That was really good.
See you all next Monday.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.